Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Nerissa Street.
Hi, how you doing? I'm so glad that you're tuned in to the podcast that we all love. This is our podcast here. My name is Nerissa Street. I'm so excited to be here because I get to bring to you an amazing artist. Try to say that 5 times fast. An amazing artist. An amazing artist. She's amazing, and she's amazing. I'm not just saying that. I've known her for several years, and her heart for the community is tremendous, right? And so grateful that she has the time to hang out with us for the time that we're here and let me speak about the stuff publicly that we giggle about privately. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Lori Pratico. How are you?
Yay! I am fabulous. There's like nowhere else I'd rather be than sitting having a conversation with you.
You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Mutual admiration society, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So people don't know who you are. They need to know who you are. So tell us who you are.
Honestly, I'm just a scrappy little kid that grew up in Philadelphia and with a little bit of guts, managed to make myself a successful self-taught artist, an entrepreneur, and a nonprofit leader. And really feel like that journey to get from the little scrappy kid to the full-grown adult that I like who I am.
Yeah.
Really just happened because I always just had 2 things in mind, and that was being in service to other people and doing the next right thing. I always just wanted to really be the best person I could be, and I get to live a life that I'm happy to live, which is beyond. Yeah, it's great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you said a mouthful there. And still, the audience has
no idea who I am.
No, but they know that you are in service, and that is absolutely, I can corroborate that in every way, shape, and form. You are definitely somebody who's in service to the community and in service to even the people that you paint and the audience that comes to view your work. Absolutely. And even the next right thing, we're going to stick a pin on that and we're going to come back to that. But I want you to really dig into what it is that you are excited about now in your work, and that'll give people a little bit more.
Absolutely. So my nonprofit is Girl Noticed, Inc. And I travel the country doing large-scale murals of girls and women that are nominated from their community to be noticed. And I get to not only highlight the girl or the woman that is nominated, but also the cause that they're attached to. What I'm super, super excited about, my project's going into its 6th year right now. And what I'm really excited about is that we're finally starting to listen, that these women's voices are finally being heard, that the Black and brown woman's voice is being heard, that the Native American's voice is being heard, that all of these different things that are coming to the forefront, the platform for them to be heard is getting larger and larger. And I think that's what really gets me excited, because even if I want to get to a point where there's no need for my project anymore, I'll go paint flowers when I'm old. There's no need for me to recognize and point out the value of women, because we already know how valuable they are in our communities. that's the end goal. And I feel like we are just hitting this kind of edge, this little cusp of, okay, people are starting to realize that we need to recognize these women. We need to make sure that their stories are heard and that they have the platform and the stage to tell them on.
Wow. Well, I mean, I can hear you on so many levels as far as what is needed to happen, and definitely want to acknowledge that you've been doing this work before it was cool to do the work, right?
Yeah.
So as you're saying, being in service and doing the next right thing, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you have been in service and you listened first, right? So I like what I hear with you saying that, okay, you know what? I noticed something and it needs to be noticed on a larger platform. So what is it that you noticed that got you to start Girl Noticed? Like, because it starts with one person having one sort of aha. So what did you notice?
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that I realized, there were lots of little ahas for me. There wasn't like this one big aha. It was like all these little things that added up. And like, there was one instance where, like, I never understood, I didn't know when I was 15 years old and painting portraits of people and trying to capture an emotion of the people that I was painting, that it meant more to me, that it wasn't just about it looking like someone. And people would say, well, paint this famous person. And I wanted to paint the artist I knew or the friend I knew and capture this different layer of them. I didn't know why I wanted that. It just was innate. It was just something that I was driven by and inspired by, was kind of peeling back a layer of a person and seeing what was underneath and being able to reveal another side or another layer of a person, because we are so many layers. And I'm sure a lot of that came from the fact that I was so many layers, and I wanted people to recognize that in me, and didn't ever really feel like that was recognized by the people that I wanted to recognize it. I was lucky enough to have just these few key people that in these little key moments would say, I noticed this about you. And I would think, oh, wow, and that would inspire me. And I thought, well, that's what I want to do for other people. I want to be that person that notices. I want to be that person that can see that you're absolutely fine just how you are. And you can start exactly where you are at beginning to achieve greatness. You don't have to wait until you have this or have that. And that was my situation. Is if I would have waited until I had a college degree in the arts, or I would have waited until I had training in the arts, I would never have had any of the things I have, because those things just weren't part of my journey. And they weren't accessible to me at the time. And there were lots of things I could have pointed to and said, well, because I don't have that, I can't do this. And that little thing I talked about in the beginning of just, I don't know what it was that just gave me that little bit of guts to say, you know what, go for it anyway. And all I needed was exactly what I had and to start. And that's what I want other people to know. That's what drives me. I want people to realize that, you don't have to wait for your situation to be perfect. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do something for you. You don't have to wait for anything to happen in our country before you can start on your journey to your success.
Yeah, that's amazing. The acknowledgement that it's not one aha, but the little steps. So many people are just looking for the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And it's not a lightning bolt, it's flashes of light.
Yeah.
Little flashes here.
Yes. And there have been so many times that I wish there was a lightning bolt, that I wish, like, boom, it's done, but it's, it really took a level of maturity for me. And that's really only something that I've acquired in maybe the last 5 years, of realizing that those little things I do every single day make a huge difference. And I wish I would have known that 20 years ago, because I feel like I would have been 10 times as far as I am today. If I would have known that if I just did the same right things every single day, good things were going to happen.
Yeah.
I do believe that, we're on a faith journey, and that there is grace for my place. Grace is given to me when I'm in the place I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. That acknowledgement of the faith. And I think people don't, again, it's this thing where people are expecting there to be this big destination, this big lightning bolt, this big, and for you to just follow even the tiniest seed that came from you, even the tiniest thing that said, hey, you know what, just start. And start with the things you just have in front of you.
Yeah. So
many people just don't, they're looking at what they have in front of them and they're minimizing it. So, right. Your acknowledgement, like, hey, this is what I've got. I don't need the degree. You didn't need the degree.
Right.
And so we don't know that we don't need it until we start, so.
And if you're getting the degree, great, get the degree. But but what you're going to realize is the day that you get the degree, that big day that happens, isn't really that big of a thing, in the big scheme of it all. Right. It's all the little things you did to get the degree that are that made the difference, and that's kind of the same thing that, like, the big accomplishments that I achieved, like the day a big gallery said, we're going to represent you. That was huge for me. Right. And the day that, a candy bar manufacturer said, you're going to be on a candy bar, that was huge for me. Yeah. And not to diminish those accomplishments, because they were great accomplishments, but there was a little expectation that I had attached to those things, like, oh, now things are really going to change. now I'm really successful. And what actually would happen is things really didn't change that much because of that. They just continued, and I could have them continue forward, or I could move backward, but I still had to keep doing all the little things that led up to those achievements happening to continue moving forward. I couldn't just stop at the accomplishment and say, okay, now it's all going to happen for me. Right. Things don't just happen for you. You have to make them happen.
Yep.
So,
yeah, there's a conversation I have with my students about, what is it that you want to do? And, a lot of them are really excited about YouTubers, because they're like, it's so great. They look like they're having so much fun, and, they just get to make videos. And I'm like, okay, so how do you think they pay for those videos? And we have this conversation about how it's daily work, and it's daily analysis, and it's daily responding to comments, and it's daily making sure that, you have this up, you have that up, you have the next thought, you have the next idea, you're preparing for the next thing. So these are things that it's just a daily process. And what ends up looking like fun, like the end result, is something that I've learned in theater and in film. There's so much work here. There's so much work here. The iceberg of work here for you to get like this. Mm-hmm. Yes. And everybody's like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Like, That,
Yes.
you know, that, no, we've spent the last 4 months to give you 3 minutes of work that looks really sharp and stuff. And then when it's done, there's the follow-up, there's the, you know, there's the moving forward from that.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
So what keeps you continuing?
It's really the same thing that made me go in the first place. It's wanting to be of service, and it's wanting to, you know, be the best person I can be. I'm really passionate about people understanding, and specifically women understanding that they can do anything. I mean, it's inside me to just, I can't even put words to it. And I know my why for Girl Noticed and going out and recognizing these women, my why for, you know, painting after painting that doesn't necessarily sell because, you know, they're not always of people that people recognize. They might, you know, that it's just, I don't care if my paintings sell half the time. That's not what I'm motivated by. I'm motivated by the idea of being able to express myself and that I might move someone. You know, it's like we've all been moved by a piece of artwork or a song or, you know, a poem or something that's in the arts and somebody dancing, whatever it is. We've all been moved by that kind of an experience. To be part of the movement is like, so multiply being moved by 10, you know, and that's what being part of the movement gets to be. Being the one that's actually inspiring other people, to me, is like, whoa, I get to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me go every day and keep going is that feeling of, wow,
I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to ignite it in other people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We are kindred spirits in that. Yeah. That's the igniting in other people is an amazing thing. And that was how we met. Yeah. that is how we met. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. So that's the ignition. It's just a joy to continue to do that kind of work. And I
have to tell that story. So I have to tell the story of the very first time I showed my artwork, like by itself. It was just my artwork hanging in a venue. And I had, you know, for me, it was a big event at the time for me where 25 people came and saw my artwork, friends, and they were all my friends. And there were drinks involved, so it wasn't hard to get them there. But they all came out to support me, and they were supporting me, which was amazing. And you were there as a friend, and you grabbed my hand and pulled me up on stage and said, "You have to thank these people. You need to come up here and say something." Right. And I was like, "Oh, you know," I was so timid, and I just thought, I'm not good. I paint pictures. I don't like to get up and talk to people. Now you can't shut me up, but. But back then, you know, the idea of standing in front of people and saying something, even just to say thank you, was terrifying to me. And I will never forget, you're like, "I'll stand right here beside you." And you stood right beside me and held my hand while I said thank you. And I have a picture of that. And every now and then it'll pop up. And I think to myself, wow, yeah, that's where it began.
In my mind, people tell me about this thing about me all the time. I, in my mind, am thinking about something completely different. And when you said that, I was like, oh yeah. I, in my mind, have, this is funny. I, in my mind, have artist as entrepreneur. And like, I'm like, I remember that and everything like that, but I could, yeah, oh my God, yes. And we were, and I was so happy for you because your work is so amazing. So when this was posted.
That was right after. So we did meet we met at Artist as Entrepreneur.
That's true.
But that event was the first event I had that kind of came out of Artist as Entrepreneur. Right. And you came to support me at that event, but you didn't just, that was the thing, is you didn't just come and support me as in, I'm going to go and have a drink and look at her artwork and say I was there and tell everybody I went. You came and you grabbed me and made sure I did the right thing. You made sure that I made the most of that experience and that I let the people that were there that were supporting me know that I was grateful for them being there. And that was, it's one of the only things I remember about that.
My God.
You know?
Yeah. I mean,
it really made an impression on me.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay.
And, yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you. People tell me this all the time that I forget, like I forget like major things. So yes, my entire audience knows I don't know what it is. Like I remember your work and I remember who you are. And that's the other thing as well. And we're, you know, I have a series of questions, but we're off on a tangent and that's fine. But
see, that's the thing. Like, that's why you don't remember that experience, because you were just being you. That was just you on the daily, you know, being you. So there's really no, like, that was no special event for you. You were just being you, you know, but for me, pulled me outside of my box of being comfortable as me and made me uncomfortable, but in a good way. Yeah. And that's why I remember it. And it stuck with me.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And I'll tell you, I did that because first of all, your work is amazing. And people who are going to watch the video will see right behind her is like an example of just the amazing work. That is not graphic design, people. This is not graphic design. I know those of you watching are like, oh, okay, how nice. That's in the style of, no, that's Lori's style. That's not in the style of. Okay, that's her work. Those are her hands. And so what I love about you and your spirit is every piece, like, and that was the thing about that show. And then everything, Girl Noticed, everything like that. The time that you take to get to know your subject, and then the colors that like they have an emotional quality to the colors and everything like that. And I'm saying this from personal experience because you painted me, which was amazing. And the fact that you took the photograph, right? You found the place, you were talking to me, and I'm somewhat, people think I'm an extrovert and I'm actually more introverted than anything else. But you were coaxing things and we were laughing and everything like that. Took the pictures. And I was, of course, whatever. And then the painting that I have, and you know what? I should have it behind me. It's in my room. Okay, something I get to look at. I should have it. But the painting, the colors that you selected were perfect. They vibrated like this emotional quality. And then that, like, even the person behind you. Even like, and that's because you're not just painting a person. It's not like it's a portrait. It is really just an expression of the person's spirit and your interaction with that spirit. Like, so like, it's not just the person's spirit, but like you in the person's spirit together on this gorgeous painting that's one of a kind. And, you know, and that, for me, shows how much you notice about people, you know, and that you're able to capture that, and that you've gone to, you kind of touched on this, but not really, Like, how many states have you traveled to notice people?
15. 15 states, 15 yes. States. And it looks like Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia is going to be next. So I'm excited. Yeah, I just got off of a phone call today with like a really cool couple girls that are just like rocking it in Atlanta, Georgia with their organization and that want to partner up and do something. So we're in the very initial stages, but I have a real good feeling about it. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Thank you for all that you said about my work. And, it's, that's such a blessing for me that when someone sees that in my work, what you described, because it really is, I feel really lucky that like the way I learned as an artist, the way I was taught, when I say I was self-taught, was I just like drew every day. I just drew people all the time. And honestly, the way it started was when I was a kid, one of my chores was to go food shopping with my mom on Wednesday nights. And she was a coupon cutter. And which meant we spent about 20 minutes in every aisle as she went through her coupons to see which one she had. So it was a long process every Wednesday night. And my reward was to get these magazines that had, the like Teen Beat and Tiger Beat magazine, all these magazines with all the stars in them. And like once a month or so, she would let me get a magazine and I would go home and draw all the people in them. And after, like, by the time I was like in the 5th or 6th grade, people were saying, my friends would come over and say, oh, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, they knew exactly who I was drawing. So I just got really, really good at that because I practiced so much. I wasn't that great of an artist. I just really liked doing it. And it was the practice that I developed this skill as an artist. And once that skill was developed, that's when all the other magic started happening, because now I didn't have to worry about the technical aspect of it, of making it look like the person. Now it really was more about, well, I want this to feel like the person. So like when I painted you, I wanted to feel that, I had to feel that energy that I felt from you, coming from you that day and from what I knew of you to come off that portrait. And like, I didn't know what colors. I didn't say before I painted it, I'm going to do it this color and this color. It just kind of happens that's what felt right at the time, so.
That, the practice. So I think people skip over, like they run straight to the talent and skip over the practice.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I know you're kind of minimizing it, but I don't want you to minimize the fact that, number one, you had the inspiration. There was something driving you to draw, right? Sure. So you were driven to draw. When I was young, I was driven to write. Like I was driving everybody in my house crazy because I was writing everywhere. Okay. Napkins, paper, cereal boxes, like it was in me. Right. So I did it. Right. But the art, and you're saying it's the skill of just doing it over and over and over again. People negate, like they neglect it, negate it, like, I'm talented, whatever. But it's that just sitting down and letting the urge come out and daily saying, I'm going to allow the urge to use me, right? That practice, that from there, that's building your soil and your foundation. Absolutely. This is what you're standing on now. You're a mural artist still, like to this day, you're getting the work all the time. I see you, I'm out in the street. Hey, that's Lori. And I recognize, not only do I recognize you, but I recognize your work. Your work has a signature. I drove by where was I the other day? And I was like, oh, that must be Lori's work.
Yeah.
So it's the skill, the foundational skill of just, I'm showing up for the work to use me. You Absolutely. Did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, desire to me is like number one. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody's going to practice that much unless they have a desire to do it, you know, and nobody was forcing me to practice. Right. As a matter of fact, it was kind of frowned upon. It was like, you're wasting time. Why are you doing that? You should be doing, you know, cleaning your room or doing something else. Like, to spend hours on a drawing was really viewed in, you know, as a waste of time. And, you know, I knew that I wasn't the best artist. Like, if I never took an art class even in high school, and when I sat in an art class, there were at least 10 people that were way better than me.
I'm going to keep making this face.
Yeah, you know, but I knew that. I wasn't born with this like incredible talent. Like, I have a twins that are 28. My daughter at like 6 years old, I'd watch her draw and I think, wow, she's talented. Like I knew it because I could tell she could draw something right out of her head like that. I still have trouble drawing things out of my head. Like, if you ask me to draw a rabbit right here on the spot, it's going to look like a cat with ears, probably, with long ears, you know. It's going to be like a perfect rabbit. Whereas some people can just draw a perfect rabbit. They have that talent. That's not a talent I have. I have a talent for drawing what I see, what's in front of me. And if you put something in front of me, the way I see it, and the way I can then translate that onto a canvas or onto a wall or onto paper is a beautiful thing. But that took practice.
Right.
I learned how to see things.
Okay. Say that one more time.
I learned how to see things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I talk to like young kids all the time that you know, they enjoy art, and you know, kids that tell me all the time, well, I'm not talented, or I'm not good at this. And I say, you know, if you wanted to be a professional basketball player, if you want to be Michael Jordan, you don't just pick up a basketball and you're great. He practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And if you want to be, you know, Mozart, or, you know, a incredible piano player, you don't just sit down at the piano and play piano. You practice and you practice and you practice. But for some reason with art, with fine art, it's like, if you don't, when you're 5 years old, pick up a paintbrush or a pencil and draw well, you're not talented.
Yeah. You know,
it's like, okay.
Okay. So a few things. So number one, you are a good artist. So I mean, every time you say that, I'm like,
I believe I'm a good artist now.
Oh, okay, I'm like,
yes. Now I believe I think I'm a really good artist now. But
right, yeah.
I'm talking about when I was like a teenager, and when I was, you know, when I was at that time in my life where people were judging, should she pursue art? You know, I was not, you know, I kind of understand now why I looked at, as a matter of fact, I reunited with a high school art teacher that I had as an elective, and she had kept a piece of my artwork, and she had told me for years she had it, and she finally found it and showed it to me. And I was like, well, no wonder why no one encouraged me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Bad. You know?
Yeah. You know, I hear you on that. And I think then we are doing a disservice to people. You know, because I think that's the other thing as well. Like, particularly with art, I think again, going back to that iceberg, we see the finished product.
Yes.
Right. And so then the first time that someone is drawing something and what they draw doesn't look like the finished product that we saw every place else, we're like, oh, okay, you should probably stop doing that. When, as you're saying, and as we know, that foundational part of the finished product was that practice. There's this great thing that I saw online the other day where we're talking about a group of us are in like we do consultations and things like that for work. And she talked about how something took her 30 minutes to do. And so she charged the amount of money that her expertise that got this 30 minutes And the person kind of balked at the price, and she found some sort of meme that says, yeah, it took me 30 minutes. What you're paying for is the 10 years of of experience that got me to solve this in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think it's the same with art, where we keep focused on this finished product, and the tree doesn't sprout out of the ground. It takes years, the root system, the branches, everything, for it to be able to sustain itself and sustain fruit. Same with an art practice.
Yes.
Definitely. Wow. For you to figure that out and just like to be able to honor that. I'm sure you're teaching classes. I bet you're teaching classes.
So this is what I do. I actually do what I call art sessions. Mm-hmm. I don't like to call them lessons. I call them sessions, because I have 2 teenage girls that come to my studio once a week. And I like doing the one-on-one process, because I really like to meet someone where they are at creatively, and then let them explore their creativity and figure out where they want to go with it. And I'll help you along the way. So that's how I approach. Of course, I come up with different projects for them to do and different things for them to work on. Right. But it's really, they get to kind of start what they're going to do where they're at creatively and take it. Because what if, like, their creativity is far beyond what my expectation for them is?
Yes.
I don't want them only to go to what my expectation is. I want them to go way beyond that. Right. And this allows them the space to do that. So I enjoy that. I prefer to do more of a mentorship type of thing. I have teenage girls come out and help with the murals. I have groups of teens come out and help with murals when I'm painting murals, and they come and they get community service hours because I'm a nonprofit, and they really just get this kind of team building. They work together. They get to really create something that then they can. When I was a teenager their age, I used to always say, I want to drive down the street one day and be able to point out the window and say, I did that. Wow. And then I think, well, that's what I'm giving these kids, that's what whether they know they want it or not.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah. You're doing a good thing.
Thank you.
You're doing a good thing, because they don't, I'll tell you, I have a student in my class. This is my 3rd year with her. She chooses the class every time. And last year she says, I made something, Miss Street, and like, I was like, wait, yes. But she didn't get that the first year. She didn't realize that was what we were moving her towards. And now this year, she's like, I know what I'm here for, because it's that. And I think people, again, going back to, we look for this aha moment. People don't know what they need till it's standing in front of them, and I think artists like you do that. You create these moments where you walk up to the mural and you're like, whoa, this person's in my town, and I had no idea that she was doing this amazing thing, and I needed to know that. Yeah. And maybe that means that I now feel led to help her, or maybe I have my own thing that, gosh, she was able to do this with these resources. Why can't I?
Absolutely. That's really the main thing, is the idea of, when I experienced that for the first time when I was in Norfolk, Virginia, painting a mural. Mm-hmm. And it was of 4 Black women, all different ages. One was a special needs woman that was in her 60s. One was a nonprofit leader of a teens organization that was like in her, maybe her 40s. And then there was a young woman that was a yoga instructor that really just she was nominated because she wanted girls that looked like her to realize that they could live healthy lives and a healthy lifestyle. And then there was a teen that frequented the teen center that had come from really bad circumstances and was just thriving and really, just doing so well with her life. And she had been nominated. But you've had all these kind of different age groups, from teenager to, a woman in her 60s. And I was painting the mural, and there was a big field right in front of the wall. It was a huge wall. It was like 200 feet long, almost, the wall.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was huge. And this young girl came kind of stomping across the field, and I turned back and looked because I kind of feel that somebody was coming up behind me.
Right.
And she said, "I have been watching you do this all week." She goes, "I work across the street." She goes, "And I can't tell you." She said, "I've been watching and I see these women on this wall, and I have never seen myself represented in my community in this way, in such a positive manner, an empowering manner." And she's like, "And I get to look at this every single day on my way to work." She's like, "Thank you." And I just was like, I wanted to drop my paintbrushes at that point and just say, "Okay, I'm done." That's what I was here for, And the unbelievable part of that was, I don't even realize before a moment like that happens, I have no idea that moment is even possible.
Yeah.
And then that moment happens, and it's like, oh, wow, now I know that's possible. And you ask me, well, what gets me up the next day? That gets me up the next day. Because I'm like, well, if that's possible, then who knows what's possible? Because all I need is for that to happen again and again and again. No less, more incredible things to happen, So it's again, I get to do this, and I just am super fortunate that I do.
Well, I mean, it's first of all, that's awesome. And I think people, again, getting to that place where you did the work before the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And people want the moment before the work. Right. And so all of that, going back to that practice, even being able to do the practice and keep up the practice, even though someone is looking over your shoulder and saying that's a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
And still you squirrel away some safe place in your house, take the little, things with you and just kind of take your time and do it because it's something that you have to do. And so that builds up I've got to go do this. And it's this huge place, and it's in Virginia, it's away from home, but it's something I've got to do. All that resilience that you built and that foundational practice is amazing. So have you ever made a mistake?
Oh, always. about 10 minutes before I came on. Yeah, as a matter of fact, so I had the opportunity to add author to my list of achievements, which was super cool, because writing was also something I've always loved to do. And like you, I found myself writing in corners and in any notebook that I had.
Right.
But one of the other things that I was kind of taught was, if I was going to choose an art, I had to choose one, so I couldn't be a writer and an artist. I had to stay in a lane, right? So I was able to enter the lane of writer, and I co-authored a book called The Nonprofit Legacy. I have it here. Okay. And it's actually 14 nonprofit executives that share their stories, and they just happen to be all women, which is super cool.
Which is the coolest thing ever.
And it's really about talking about our journeys of starting our nonprofit, how we keep going, missteps along the way. And one of the things that one of the main messages in my chapter is the idea that I had kind of felt about 3 years into my nonprofit that I was at the height of my artistic career. Everything was kind of going my way. I was getting the recognition. I was doing everything I loved. Everything seemed like it should just be perfect for me. Right. And it was actually one of the lowest times of my life. Success can be optical illusion sometimes, and I just was not in a good place. And I broke trust with people that I had, that had entrusted themselves with me. And just, there's just things that, I don't want to say I regret doing, because I learned a whole lot from it. So I don't regret it. It was a time in my life, and thank God it was a short period of time where, things just kind of got a little out of control for me, and I had to restart. And we get to do that too. We get to reset and restart, and at any time. And sometimes we have to, everything can appear to be going amazingly well, and then something happens and maybe we crash and burn, for a little bit. Right. But it's okay. It's okay if you lose the business. It's okay if, life happens, and, we're going to have situations that happen. And yes, I have failed. And yes, I have made mistakes. And I like to think that I've learned from them. I've accepted them, right, which is a big step. And I stopped blaming other people for the difficulties I had in my life, which was something I did for many, many years, was place the blame. It was never me. And finally I got to a point where there was no one to blame but me. I kind of had to say, okay, now you need to look at yourself and realize that, you're responsible for you, and you have to make some changes. And, fortunately I was able to do that. And now I feel better about myself and stronger than ever. So I'm, glad it wasn't easy to go through some of that stuff, but I'm glad I did.
Well, as you say, there is grace for your place, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And beautiful that, you've come to a place, because I feel that too. The mistakes I've made have been, I hate them. Because I'm a control freak. I own that. But the growth that comes from getting to a place where you're like, I am the one that is owning, if I own that, I own this too, so beautiful. And the grace that comes from it, and being able to move forward. So I don't know. We've talked about so much, right? I feel like we could talk for the next.
No, we don't have to end it.
I'm like, wait, we have I have a because I love doing this. This is something I love doing, hearing people's stories. So obviously.
Well, and thank you for allowing us the platform to tell them. It's a beautiful thing. I like to think that I illustrate the story. So I like to think that my murals provide an illustration for someone's story, and then you get to tell the story. It's like I'm giving you this huge portrait. I'm giving you the words. I'm giving you everything right there, and then you get to tell that story as loudly and as brilliantly as you choose to tell it.
I accept because I love it. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So there's a couple more questions. So number one, this is a good one. You completely, like you said, the book, but now we're going to need to know, and I'll get some links for you. So I'll post it when the list goes on YouTube. But we'll definitely need to know, where can we get this book, The Nonprofit Legacy? Where do we get this book?
You could get the nonprofit legacy on my website, my Girl Noticed website, which is girlnoticed.org.
Okay.
And there is a link on the website that says shop to support. And you will find the book on there. You will find some fun, inspirational T-shirts on there. Anything you purchase on my website, the proceeds directly benefit Girl Noticed and the nonprofit.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. It's really a really great tool. I'm really proud of this because I'm really glad that I chose to do the first book as a compilation with other authors, because I really see the value in that, of working with other women to put something together like this, because it's such a tool for anyone that is thinking about starting a nonprofit or is like in a nonprofit and just is like, how do I keep going? It's inspirational, and I'm super proud of it.
This is exciting. So definitely we have people who listen to our podcast who are in that space and who are definitely service oriented, thinking about how they're going to impact their community. We're going to have to reschedule a thing. We could just talk about your nonprofit and definitely talk about, I think, because that's a thing as well. The being a leader of a nonprofit, that's like a whole series of questions. But because of that, it's so easy to have what's called founder syndrome. And we don't want that for you because we want you to stick around for a while. So what do you do for your self-care? We're going to wrap up with that and a couple more questions. So what do you do for your self-care, leader?
So honestly, my self-care is, I have what I call miracle mornings. And I try very deliberately to start my morning early, get up, and I read something inspirational. I spend some time listening to something inspirational. So I have I am just a podcast. I love podcasts, and I will Google whatever I need to be inspired by on podcasts and just find somebody talking about what I want to hear. And I listen to that, and I always end up hearing something else, which is wonderful. And just that quiet time in the morning to say, thank you, God, and, really just be with myself, be in gratitude for the things I do have, and to set up my day for success. When I spend about an hour doing that every morning, an hour to an hour and a half. And that hour and a half, that's the best part of my day every day. And I feel it. It's like if I don't do that for a day, I notice it. If I don't do it for more than a day, you all notice it.
Yes.
So that's how I take care of myself, really, because it's taking care of myself emotionally and mentally and physically and all of it.
Yeah. And that's a good way to think about it. If I don't take care of myself, then you all feel it. Oh, yeah. I really think that people who are in service to the world, who are thinking about doing what's best and what's the next best thing, need to always be aware of the fact that when they feel good, the world feels good. So. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's a great place to end at least this session. We may chat again because you are awesome. You have so much to share. So do you have any parting words for our audience?
Just keep at it. Just keep doing it. It's the little things. It's that little morning routine I have that has gotten me where I am. It's setting yourself up every day for success. Just keep doing the little things, do the next right thing, and think about other people once in a while. I certainly think about myself,
yeah.
But you have to think about the other person, and that's what moves you forward. So,
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
This was wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.